Hey everybody, Doug here from 2+Tough, along with my good friend Kenzie.
Hello.
Hey, so we're back here for another 2+Tomes, and before we start diving into stuff, just to let you know, this is going to be a book review, but there are not going to be any spoilers. So, well, in the beginning, sorry. We're going to have a non-spoiler section, and then we'll dig into spoiling everything and review them. So, can someone just let me know if you can hear and see me okay? And same goes for Kenzie. We'll give it just a hot second here. But the last time we did this, was it Red Feast?
Yeah, it was Red Feast. It was
Yeah.
last I think it was at the end of summer. It was before I went up here to school, so it had to be like at the latest in August, even though I think it was more like June, early summer. It
Sweet.
has
Thank
been a
you.
long time.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Kyle, for giving us an audio-visual check. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my little downward cam here, if you'll forgive me. As I turn my light on. There we go. It'll adjust pretty quick. And I'm going to be painting some stuff, but let's start off with the non-spoiler review. What'd you think, Kenzie, of the
Um,
Warcry Anthology?
the Warcry anthology, I think, it's definitely not the best thing I've read in this entire series, which is saying a lot because we've only reviewed 4 books. No, it had some stories that were really good, and it had some stories that were just kind of like okay. When it comes to fleshing out the lore of the original 6 Chaos War bands, I think it does a decent job at, if not like telling more about the lore, at least characterizing them into a like, okay, here's how they talk, here's how they behave, here's what they believe,
Yeah.
um, in a more natural way, and especially a lot more expanded fashion than in the core book.
For sure, yeah. I will say I was excited about this book because the I was very disappointed when I got the core book for the actual game and like everybody had like a paragraph and a half, maybe.
Right. I remember looking through there. I still own the Warcry core book, even though I haven't actually played the game.
Yeah,
But I was flipping through it when I first got it, and I was like, wait, that's all the lore.
yeah. They didn't give us a whole lot to work with, but maybe I don't know in their cosmic calendar that they understand they knew like, oh, we have other games coming out that are going to, they have like the Wrath of the Ever Chosen thing now that really it does give real background to the setting, at least not the war bands, but
Yeah, I'm the setting of the 8 points, especially in the anthology, is actually another thing that is very well characterized as that, and I'm excited to get my own hands on Wrath of the Ever Chosen. Like, there's a player at the local game store I'm at that plays Ossiarch Bone Reapers,
mhm.
and he straight up approached me and was like, "Hey, Wrath of the Everchosen, you wanna do like a few narrative things?" I'm like, oh, "I thought you never asked." Of course, I don't
Yes,
have
yes, a
any.
million times, yes.
I haven't really built up any sort of Slaves to Darkness army. I got a box of Chaos Warriors for Christmas, and that's it.
Yeah,
But I've got a corner. I've got a really decent corn army, but I'm not sure if that in I'm not really sure if it's going to be good enough to take on Bone Reapers. But I might get lucky.
yeah.
I might out tactics them. Some of the narrative scenarios might favor me.
Sure, and then it's actually quite involved. Like there's different abilities for attacker, defender, but I'll go
Oh,
into all
fun!
that. I actually might do a live show tomorrow talking about what's in the actual book there. But
Don't spoil it.
I know. But the point I wanted to bring up is that like I wonder if they kind of passed on some of the finer details when it comes to the setting because they knew that that book was going to come and you know that kind of stuff.
Mm,
Fill it in.
yeah, I don't know. My thought is that they, much like the actual release of Age of Sigmar, is more concerned about defining the game mechanics as opposed in refining that and seeing if it really stuck before we start digging into the lore of the franchise, I guess.
For sure. We have
And
a question
yeah,
here.
we got
My
a question
Angel
with that.
Gabriel. Hi, real quick. What is this book? It is the Warcry Anthology book. Basically goes to the backstory. Well, it gives you a story for each of the factions from
Original
a board game
original
called,
stick.
Warcry. And that is what
It's
it
a
is.
little
So,
spin off of Age of
um,
Sigmar.
So okay, let's go back to your non-spoiler review. So you liked it? Generally, some stories better than others.
I think generally I would recommend it if you're highly invested in the original six Chaos Warbands. If you want to know more about them, at least any one of them, just go read it. I suggest. I would suggest it. It's not a bad they do a good job of developing whatever warband strikes your fancy.
For sure. Yeah, I would generally agree. I don't feel like I wasted my coin at all. There's some cool stuff in there. Each story is by a different author, and you can see their strengths and weaknesses as writers. I think.
Yes. Yeah, that was probably one of the more interesting aspects of this thing. And also, question: Is it available in audio format?
I do not
got a
think
question
so.
in the chat there. Okay, I'm gonna quickly research.
Yeah, go for it. My understanding is no, they haven't done a ton with audio stuff because I was looking at that. But yeah, so my thing, what would I say? Like I said, some stories are better than others. That's just, it is what it is. But what I will do is say that they all took very different approaches to describing what they're seeing in the setting.
Yes.
And so, like, it depends on kind of like what speaks to you the best. But I think that no matter how you view some of the lore, you'll get something out of it. Like one of those authors is going to appeal to you.
Yeah. Yes.
For sure.
And I think that once we start going a little bit more in depth, it'll definitely start showing.
For sure. So let's not waste any more time. We're going to kick it off with The Harrower, which is written by David Annandale. And let me put my paintbrush down here and I will flip that page open. I remember the stories by the factions, not the actual name, because some of the names are deceiving.
I'm the same way as well. Yeah, I remember when I cracked it open the first time, I was like, what? Which one's what? It was all part of the fun.
Yeah, I thought it was...
Oh.
Let's see. I thought it was going to be... What is it? The...
sounds pretty... Yeah, that sounds pretty Corvus Cabal-y. Iron Promise is obviously the Iron Golems.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. We'll run through this real quick. The Harrower by David Annandale. The Method of Madness by Peter McLean. Devourer's Demand by Ben Counter. Proving Ground by Sarah Cockwell. And Eight-Tailed Naga by David Geimer. And Iron Promise by Josh Reynolds. My boy, JR. So, I say my boy. He doesn't know I exist.
No,
but I do comment.
I'll be perfectly honest. I think I support your decision of Josh Reynolds being probably the best Age of Sigmar author out there right now.
Yes.
Given the stuff we've read on this show, Josh Reynolds has proved himself to be...
He's so good. The only other person that I really want them to bring in, and they did sort of, was Aaron Dembski Bowden. He did the short stories in the Slaves of Darkness book.
I heard about that. I still really need to get the Slaves of Darkness book. Even if I don't start playing the army right away, I really need to get it just because I want to start looking at all that.
Yeah,
I have a grand design for Chaos Army.
They're pretty cool. So yeah, those are the stories. We'll start with The Harrower up front here by David Annandale. And this is the story about the... Oh my gosh, I always get their name wrong.
The Unmade.
Yes, the Unmade. I always want to say the Untamed. I don't know why.
Well, because you're an Untamed Beast player, man.
Yeah, that's true.
You're too in love with them.
So, you want to do the plot synopsis or you want to do the review part?
I'm going to do the review part. I'm your literature consultant.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Have you forgotten?
That's why I pay you the big bucks.
Yeah, I don't get paid.
Let's see. So this one, it is basically... There is a warband of... Actually, I'm going to see if I can get a picture of each of the warbands and pull it up. So I think that'll help, actually.
Visual aid. Question, what model are you painting right now?
This is for Infinity. It is a Assassin.
Assassin. Okay, and didn't you recently put out a video about all the stuff in there?
In Infinity? Yeah, I did. I did a basic lore video, kind of like a...
overview?
Yeah.
Okay, I need to go check that out. But yeah, we had a question in chat. I'm painting a Forge Fiend, by the way, for my Word Bearers army.
Nice.
Recently joined a narrative campaign at my local game store and decided to finally start working on that Chaos army.
Sweet. Okay, so... Where are they at? Unmade. Hoppa. So I will throw the picture up over on Kenzie's side. As soon as I can find a picture where it's not the box. And my neighbors are just moving in next door, so of course they're like banging on the wall, hanging up pictures and stuff.
Oh, yeah, it's I can't hear nothing then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the story of the Unmade here, basically, it follows.
Oh, you got the cover in the way.
Oh, I do. So ta-da! Okay, there we go. So the story of the Unmade is there is a war band, these guys, and the story really takes from the perspective of the blissful one, which is that big Mother Hubbard you see right in the front with the legs cut off, built up on stilts, has no hands. How does it go to the bathroom? Nobody knows.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So the lore behind the Unmade here is that basically they think that to truly experience the world is to experience pain. And the more pain that you feel and inflict upon the world, it's closer to enlightenment, because the world is so cruel and so harsh and everything is so crappy that this is just kind of the natural order of things, sort of. Which is super grim. I like it quite a bit.
Very, very grimdark. Yeah.
And I will say that I thought that I would like their lore the least, because I wasn't really taken by the models.
Mm-hmm.
However, it ended up being one of my, I don't know, it's not my top story, but it's higher up than I expected it to be. How about that?
Interesting.
And what it really is the leader, the blissful one, is basically on a religious crusade. She's had visions of a tower that she has to go take down. And so the warband is her and all of her followers, and they're slowly getting thinned out as they travel the 8 points and basically like trying to find this tower in her vision. And then all of her people are starting to question her and her authority. There's some we'll say innuendo of backstabbing, that they're going to revolt against her, and her old friend who she superseded now is going to rise up and be like, "You're not the boss of me."
Yeah. It's heavily implied that he's going to do something bad.
Yeah,
he's jealous of her for getting the position over him.
Exactly. So there's some cool stuff there. A little internal intrigue kind of hinted at, and it turns out that through a series of events that they actually, I should back up. So when you become a Splintered Fang, because I was kind of on that mental note there.
Unmade.
Yeah. So when you come of age, meaning whatever, we have a quinceañera, or you become a man, whatever, whatever their age party is for men and women, you basically surgically remove your own face and you wear it as a belt, and you don't have any eyelids. She describes this kind of weird half awake, half asleep scenario, which just sounds awful and awesome at the same time. And yeah, so it's very intense in terms of talking about pain. But she has little flashbacks to when she was with her council of people back at home, and it makes it seem like it's a very practical religious thing versus y'all's just nuts kind of thing.
Yeah. There's a section of the story early on where it flashes back to when she was still doing her thing in Shyish, before she became a blissful one, actually, and it details her and her warband taking down I think a blood knight, a vampire guy, and that's what earns her the spot and everything like that. But they also talk heavily about this ancient king of their people that went to the 8 points and found this tower and everything, and it is their tower. And the blissful one is currently is on this kind of crusade to retake it, because the tower has been taken over by heresy, and is now producing this river of poison that is polluting the 8 points. And so
and so we find out kind of they find bodies of the last party that went out to get the tower and all that stuff. We're super abbreviating it because I want you to read the book. Okay, that's full spoiler. That's why we're doing this. And then they find out over time that their real enemy that they're trying to face, rather than being just someone took the tower, it's the Splintered Fang, who are another one of the warbands.
Mm-hmm.
One of the cool things I think that this book does is you have a story from the perspective of the core warbands, but then they also show up as enemies in pretty much everybody else's story. And I like seeing both sides. So like there, in this case, you are viewing things as the unmade. Actually, did they show up as a villain in another story? I can't remember.
The Unmade, I remember there is the severed head of one of their like chieftains in the Untamed Beast story, but that's like after the combat's over. I want to say maybe
for the most part though
they're fought against in the Splinter Fang story, but I don't think so. I just remember them in the Untamed Beast one.
Okay, yeah, it does. They do show up in each other's stories to some extent, so I do think it's interesting. You get to see them as the antagonist, but also as the protagonist, which is awesome.
Yeah, they do a great job of integrating each one.
For sure. And so I thought that was really cool. So in this one, obviously the Splintered Fang are the bad guys, quote unquote. Everybody's a bad guy. There's no good guys in Warhammer.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even know how to write it. And a pretty epic fight ensues. And basically, it's this cool thing. Right, and I'll let you go to your review here in a second. It's this cool thing that they keep driving home where they experience religious perspective and enlightenment and freedom through pain. And so they keep hurting themselves along the way, losing members, and then contrasted with poison, which is an interesting thing because it is an incredibly painful way to die. So they have to get their job done, but they're not opposed to feeling the sting of the poisons kind of thing. There's a part of it where the leader just jumps straight up into a huge vat of something nasty, and it basically like is burning her alive as she's swimming through
wow, this sucks, but it's also the best thing I've experienced.
This
Holy
is the
crap,
best. Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna get so many brownie points with God with this. So yeah,
he had a come to Jesus moment.
Yes, exactly. So it was interesting to read. So go ahead and give me, what is your review of this?
Now, I'm gonna be frank. This one wasn't really my favorite, particularly because, well, I mean, for as much as the backstory section was interesting, just the way the whole story kind of progressed was just kind of like, okay, okay. There's definitely a lot of traveling and meandering.
Yeah.
And this kind of internal conflict that doesn't really come to a head until the war bands whittle down to just the two, and they're like, okay, fine, we'll have to put aside our differences to beat up these guys.
I will say, I think part of that is because of the format. Like, I don't think short stories lend themselves well to extended travels, and they were like, this whole book is them just walking, essentially.
The whole story, the crux, the larger chunk of the story is just them walking, a little bit of backstory, walking again, and then they get to the tower, and everything just goes 0 to 60.
Yep.
It's a, I think there's I want to say there's like a similar. I have a similar problem in some of the later stories where it seems like the limit of space that they had kind of makes the climaxes come like out of nowhere and seem a little bit too much for what we've experienced up to that point. There's the progression of action is a little unbalanced.
Okay, like the pacing of the story kind of thing. Like
the pacing. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. It's the same way in it's the same. I'm tie it back to one of the other books that we reviewed. I've been thinking about Red Feast.
Yeah, this is thinking that too.
Ever since. It's like Red Feast. It has this really slow, really really interesting build up of the world building and everything like that. It's paced for a marathon, is what I say. But then the climax comes and everything goes from 0 to 60 in half a second.
Yep.
And kind of just whoa. Now the Harrower is not the most egregious offender of this one.
No.
But I will I will state, I think it must have been either like when I was reading it or how I was reading it, must have been distracted or something like that. But the climax seemed really hard for me to kind of wrap my mind around, if only because just the description of the tower itself and where all the enemies were placed in it just seemed kind of like, huh? Like I couldn't exactly place everything.
Yeah, he
as far as
did
the action.
exactly. Yeah, I would agree. I think that the buildup of the tower was super cool, like all the
Yeah,
visions she was
yeah.
having. But then the
Hmm.
delivery of like I didn't really get a picture. You know, if he had gone into like massive detail in these visions, I would be like, okay, now we're here and we know what it looks like. But when we got there in the story, we're like, okay, we know there's a waterway that gets in there because she swam into it.
Yeah,
But
there's this waterway, and then like somehow there's a big old mechanism inside this tower,
mhm.
and she has to climb all the way to the top and go back to the bottom, and it's like what is anything, and it's all like while this combat is going on, so it's not really the most conducive to describing a setting as complex as this tower I think
Yeah,
is. Um, that's personally my take, but I tend to have a little bit of trouble when it comes to like visualizing like have spatial visualization.
mhm.
Like I'm terrible when somebody gives me a measurement like, oh yeah, it's 2 feet. I'm like, what is that? So
What are these
so
feet?
I want to blame some of this on my own personal kind of like struggles, but also I think that but hearing you confirm it kind of like is like, oh yeah, okay, good. I'm not going
Yeah,
crazy.
no, no, not at all. I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, I think overall, like, my favorite thing about it was just it got me interested in a faction that I came into it thinking, I'm not going to dig this, and I think that's the best part. Where
Yeah, no, it definitely sells what makes the faction unique and
totally,
interesting, and adds a lot of character to like this is how X character experiences the world essentially, and it's like that. And for a faction as alien, I guess, is this with their
hmm
beliefs and everything, it's really something like that is really useful, and it succeeds in that front. But when it comes to telling like a actually kind of compelling narrative, it's like, okay, it's a little rough there.
yeah, yeah. I think if it had um, didn't have so much traveling, like maybe start us off a little bit closer to the tower,
Mm-hmm.
and then kind of focused on describing it more and giving us a real feel of that battle scene, I think it would have been just a little nudge up. But I did like it. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't think there was any story in this anthology that made me just like aggressively angry. Like I
I don't know
think
if aggressively angry, but there was one that I definitely did not like.
or aggressively, yeah. But it wasn't like my reaction to Black Talon where I got done with that book and I was like, this was just terrible.
Oh.
Well, okay, or like this was just a bad.
It was a
Like
mess. Yeah.
I don't think there was any short story in this one that just made me like like flat out state like this was not no no.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Give everyone some credit, and I think that's why I still recommend the book, even if not all the stories are up to par.
Totally. Okay. Do you have any more thoughts on the harrower or
No,
heroine?
no, I think that I've summed it up quite well.
Okay. Let's see. They are all very different lengths. Let me grab my book
Yeah,
here and
that is
swip.
definitely something. I think I remember the hair was a lot longer than I anticipated. I was like, what?
Okay, this is one that I know that you did like. We're
Oh yeah,
looking at
yeah.
The
Method of
Method of
Madness.
Madness by Peter McLean. First of all, Peter, I don't know who you are, but I love you.
Mm.
So, um, do you still want to do the same formula? I'll kind of give a brief summary of the story and you do the review.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I want to assume that you read this closer to the time of recording than I did because I read this last semester.
So
Most
I
of this
did
stuff.
because I refreshed myself, but the only thing I didn't get a chance to do was the last story. But you said you read that
Oh well,
recently,
yeah,
so
I read that one like the other day.
yes, okay, perfect. We're in sync and
So
we didn't even know it. So, um, the Method of Madness is about. Oh, let me pull their picture up because
about the death.
this.
of the original
is
War.
another one that I still don't care for the models, but my god, they did a good job of like really selling me on the faction. Let's see.
Mm-hmm. I so when Warcry first came out, the Cypher Lords were the ones that I picked up first. I was like, these guys are my guys because they, Realm of Light. They were the first glimpse of people from the Realm of Light, and I was like, that's what I want. That's what I've wanted for like this entire game. Um, and then I had them for a while. I moved, and I was like, and I saw them in my closet. I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna use these anymore. So because I didn't have a good idea for a color scheme. So I swapped them out for the Corvus Cabal, which I have now and I have primed up and I still need to paint. Um, but now after reading Method of Madness, I'm like, I want to go do Cypher Lords again.
Yeah, man.
I want to go get some Cypher Lords. And especially with how my army lore is turning out as well, it's like these guys would fit in like surprisingly well.
Yeah. So
Anyway.
what this really is the Cypher Lords. Let me get the guy's name right. So it is Thrallmaster Vignis
Yes,
Denia. He rolls into basically, is it Karngrad? Is that what it's called?
Yes, Karngrad, Karn something.
Karngrad, yes. Okay, 8 R's before I. Okay.
Karn the Betrayer.
Yes. So Karngrad, if you don't know, is the big mega city that exists within the 8 points, and it might be weird to think about like a chaos city, but you know what? They're people too.
Dude, this story sells you on it, on the
Yeah.
idea of the Chaos City. I want to see more of the setting after.
Exactly, yeah. So
the city of Conrad after this. Anyways, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So it does a great job of kind of setting up the city. It's a very interesting place, and the Thrallmaster wants to come in and he just wants to rule it, like Dr. Horrible style. And so basically the whole faction of the Cypher Lords, they basically use toxins, but not like the Splintered Fang. They use mind-altering drugs and illusions and all this stuff that messes with perception. I think some are drinking poison, some are vapor.
Yeah, vaporous.
I'm trying to think of what else. There's some other stuff. It's just all different ways of just mind-altering stuff. And his way of doing that, and kind of the idea is, he wants to seize control basically of the city, and to do that he starts poisoning the leader, the dude in charge of the entire city. Basically it's mayor. He shows up and he has like all kinds of wine and stuff like that, offers a gift to the leader, and it turns out that all of that
It's more of a excuse me. There's more of a council of leaders within Karngrad, and so Vignis, what he chooses to do is he chooses to focus on one of the higher ranked merchants and everything like that, and using that position to try and get closer in with one of these major leaders to supplant him and take over that way and gain power that way.
Yes, I forgot about that. So in one of the grossest scenes ever, he takes a merchant, and he's like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. Here's how I'm going to get to one of the city leaders, okay? I'm going to pretend to be this super famous merchant, and I'm going to say, hey, have you met my new friend? And then introduce himself, basically. It's like, okay, so how do I do that? So he goes and he drugs and captures the merchant, and the guy's like, I'm not going to help you. To which he basically loads him up full of poisons that make his face kind of melt off.
Yes.
And then he, our hero, quote unquote, Vignis, then puts the face on his face, so he's wearing a mask of the dude, and then basically has a whole bunch of creams and stuff like that to kind of like make it stick and look realistic.
Yeah, and then he uses that disguise to sell one of the leaders on this alcohol he brings from his homeland. But of course, he's put poisons in it to make it like highly addictive and somewhat psychoactive and everything like that.
Yep.
So that he can use that to further increase his power and influence with the city. It's good. It's so good.
It is a really good story. It's really cool. I
love it.
Meanwhile, he's trying to like stave off a whole bunch of. There's Corvus Cabal in this one, who are the aggressor that they're fighting, and basically their whole role is like you don't get to just come into this city and take over. Like, what the heck are you doing here? And so the Corvus Cabal are trying to fight him at every turn. The direct underling of Vignus is super awesome. She is all pumped full of nasty drugs, and she drugs herself to like get. She goes Super Saiyan for a little while, and then like just collapses afterwards. It's rough.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah. So, she's super cool. I think they did a good job of representing pretty much every model in that set is present in some level. I mean, a lot of them are like the thralls, the little guys who don't, their lives are pretty worthless.
When it comes to doing, I think they're called like the mirror blades, because that's what the the second in command for Vignet is a mirror blade, and they do a good job of establishing kind of their role within that kind of warband.
Yes, absolutely. So I don't know. I thought it was a pretty good story. That's kind of my synopsis, and basically it ends. I gotta word this.
It ends. I remember, it's like this is but stage one, like first plan. So it ends with a big climactic scene where everybody's tripping out on this.
The city starts going mad with this crap he's putting in the water.
and then he's putting in this drink, and he sells it to all the, I guess, the quote unquote nobility and everything, and they start going crazy. But then like the last scene is him dumping that concoction into the water system.
Yep.
So it all starts going through the city, and it's like, oh yeah, this is only the beginning. I'm like, oh, I want to read the whole book of this.
I know, it was really cool. So good. Thought that was legit. Anyway, that's the story arc. Go ahead and do your review. I'm gonna go ahead and take a wild shot in the dark and say you kind of liked it.
Oh no, this one is like hands down my favorite. Which again is interesting because whenever I came into it, it's like, it's Cypher Lords. I mean, I think they're cool, but I mean, I don't know if they're going to be able to stick the landing with this kind of complex scheming that they're known for, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, it again pleasantly surprised me. And when I say pleasantly surprised me, it just like blew all my expectations out of the water, because it was just really solid when it came to being like, okay. I'm sorry, I had to backtrack. I'm like, okay.
No, you're fine.
So, it does a good job of selling you on Vignus's capabilities without like making it seem kind of like, pulled out of nowhere. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense because this guy already comes in knowing all the information and having all these abilities. And it does a good job of selling it to where there's still conflict. There's still a struggle that he has to overcome. Like he has to figure out, who's important.
Yep.
Who he has to get rid of, and of course there's a Corvus Cabal, so it's like we have to fight against them.
The fight scenes are great. I mean, for how short it is, I think they're really great.
Yes, they are. They're unlike the Harrower, it's a lot more consistent because the settings that they take place in. I think one takes place in the back room of a tavern, and the Corvus Cabal like jumps through the ceiling and starts fighting and doing all that business.
Mm-hmm.
So for one, it's like, okay, you already got a good idea of what this room is. So when they start, doing all their stuff, it's like, okay, I have a good mental image of this. So yeah, everything is already kind of plausible with the with what happens, and it's interesting to see just kind of the progression of it, to be like, yes, this is but one part of this greater scheme, that here's how it all ties together, and here's where it's going to go. It's all very consistent as far as like, okay, we know what he's doing, we know why he's doing it, and we know, and now we're going to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
There is one tick in the way the author writes this. Take a drink every single time Vignus smiles behind his mask.
Yep, 100%. I was just thinking that.
Smiles.
You will be toasty.
You-
That is my word I will give to you. That is...
yeah, more than likely inebriated.
Yeah, it is. Okay, right on. I dig it. So the next one here, let me get the name right, is by Ben Counter, who he's been around for a long time, and I either love his books or I'm super neutral. And this one is called The Devourer's Demand by Ben Counter. And I have to say, I'm just going to spoil it here, this is my favorite story. If Kenzie got a chance to gush all over the last one, this is mine. Where I thought it was incredible. So basically, it's the Untamed Beasts who, yes, of course, let me go get their picture pulled up here. The Untamed Beasts are kind of like the classic, what am I trying to think of, like...
The Norska kind of barbarians from they seem very maraudery.
Yeah,
like
I was going to say Conan.
If I wanted to do like a Ravagers kind of style army for Slaves of Darkness, I would definitely have like way too many Untamed Beasts in there.
Right. And they're also super good if you're playing Slaves to Darkness, by the way.
Really? So, because I remember I was looking after thinking about after seeing your video on the Warcry warbands like lore and Slaves of Darkness, I was like, oh, let's go check out the rules for Cypher Lords and everything. I'm like, oh, their whole gimmick is that it just does a -1 to hit.
Yep.
That's not good at all because these damage profiles are terrible. These melee profiles are terrible. I'm sorry.
Yep. No, yeah, the Untamed Beasts are actually legit in the game.
I would expect them to be because they seem like the only ones that'd be able to really hold anything except have crappy armor saves. How's that?
For sure.
That doesn't matter if you hit them hard enough.
They earn that 6-up. So this actually follows the tale of a man named Thornwinder. And really what it is, it's kind of like a rise to glory type story. Starts off with him being mocked by his tribe because he is too small. He's a little wuss in as you can see in the picture on the screen, a whole faction full of what is basically bodybuilders drinking Hulk milk. And so he's kind of derided for that, and he's trying to prove himself. He has the courage, but not the physical tenacity, basically, to earn glory. Their villains that they fight it starts off with the Iron Golems. I think, or maybe it ends with Iron Golems. I'm trying to remember. But basically, he tries, okay, I need a shortcut to be respected by my people. And so he goes out, and there is a beast in the woods that his people kind of revere. Like, the unkillable beast, basically, in the woods that everyone has a story about. And in their culture, only the chief really is allowed to hunt it. Because it's like a pledge of honor type thing.
What is it called? Like the Blood Wyvern or something?
Yeah, it's something. It's a totally made up thing. There's no model for it. I wish there was.
No, yeah, it's not, but it sounds pretty cool. Let me I'll look.
So he's trying to do that. He gets thwarted the first time we see him. He thinks he's outsmarting it, and then last second he realizes, oh no, the beast knows I'm here. He's luring me in. I'm not hunting him. He's hunting me, kind of thing. And then he gets his world straight up rocked, and he survives though. And then the tribe kind of pulls him back in, and like I said, this is supposed to be a monster that only the chiefs hunt. And so he's very much chastised. Like, first of all, you're a small, tiny loser. There's no reason you think you could take on this huge beast. If our tribe leaders can't do it, you can't do it.
Oh, it's called the Gore Drake, and this one is named Harrow.
Cool, I dig it. And so, he's getting all kinds of flack for doing what he's trying to prove himself, and they basically put him in mini jail. He goes out. He's not allowed to really do anything. They kind of make him be I don't know, not servant, but second class. Can't even go out and fight, right? Yeah. And until he gets tired of it, I'm gonna yada 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 just a little bit. He goes out and he actually manages to kill the thing. Let's see. There's a little bit of drama there with the tribe leader, but for the most part, he proves himself. And then the next time he's out on the battlefield, he hears these weird voices in his head, sees a head on a pike. Huh?
He talks to the severed head on a pike, straight up talks to it, and it's like, yeah, hey, yo, go do it. I know you want to.
Yep.
So he goes back to the camp and just straight up just murders the heart eater right there.
Yeah, so it's this weird thing where like there's a battle going on, and he starts having this weird communication with a severed head. That's talking to him. It's not like he's just going nuts. It's back and forth, and it basically, to an extent, it's almost like telling him like, embrace your destiny. Just go do stuff. Like go, don't wait for anyone to invite you. Just go make it happen. And so he does it. He does the Shia LaBeouf, do it, and he goes back home. Kills basically the tribe shaman, which is not great. I mean, that's just a bad start. And asserts himself as dominance. And then there's a few short, I'm gonna call it a montage scene of them having fights, and he is just kicking tail, like the straight up Brad Pitt in Troy, like running up somebody's shield and doing like the Batman leap onto someone's face. There's all kinds of stuff. And all the whole time, like, this voice is still whispering to him. It's still telling him about glories that are not yet had, and he needs to go conquer more. It's showing him visions of a tower, and this is kind of where we get the Untamed Beast mantra of like, tear it down. Like whatever is up that man has put together needs to be torn down, and I like that quite a bit. Very Gur-like.
It's a theme throughout the book.
For sure. And then
or throughout the story, I mean.
Yeah, and basically the climax of it all is that he pushes himself too hard. He's unable to achieve his destiny. And this is after a few really cool fights, so it doesn't just trail off. But he pushes himself too far, can't achieve his destiny, and then he winds up as the head on a pike for somebody else, enticing people to come join him. Yeah.
It was definitely a cool way to end the story. Like I wasn't a huge fan of this one, but I remember like that bit at the end where he's the head on the pike. I'm like that.
Yep.
Good one.
Which it's kind of cool. Like I liked it because it makes it seem like the things that are going on at the 8 points just have this life to them. Like someone else's story ended and his story began, kind of thing, and now that cycle will just keep repeating, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, he went full Kratos God of War. Like there were some really cool, really cool scenes in that, in some of those fights. And I think that was legit. So yeah, all in all, I thought it was a fantastic book. Trying to think of specific highlights from it. What I liked about it is more so, I think maybe the Unmade also did this really well, but like they show us like the tribal life. It's not just fighting. Like, even the Cypher Lords one, like, they're already out of their home and they're in the town always doing work, but there's a lot of scenes where our main character is like being, he's a subordinate. He has, there's a structure, even though everyone's chaos and evil and mean and that kind of stuff. I liked seeing that, and I wish there was more of that, frankly, in all the battle tomes.
Yeah, or more of like the out of battle kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's primarily the reason why I'm very interested in reading the Sisters of Battle books. Is it's because I really want to get a better glimpse of what they are like off the battlefield. Because the battle tomes do a good job of like showing who everybody is like in the heat of the moment, but it's the like when it all settles out, it's like, who are they? That's a thing that most of the battle tomes, especially the ones leaning more towards like chaos, really don't do a whole lot of. It's because it's like, we want to create this wasteland of blood and death and everything like that, but it's like when there's no one left, when there's no fighting to be done, like what are you doing? What are you doing?
Exactly, yeah. So I thought that was a real strength of it. Also, yeah, I mean, just like I said before, the idea that someone's story is always beginning and another was always ending. I like that. There's a lot of, kind of like nudge, hint, hint. Like you get the sense that this is either it's like a demon of corn or something like that, kind of talking through the skull. Because he does mention bloodshed and specifically like pouring out blood. So
Yeah, I think I vaguely remember that.
it was subtle. I mean, it wasn't like I am corn. Like it's just one of those things that you could infer.
It's not Red Feast.
No, no.
I'm sorry.
Or it's all corn all the time kind of thing.
It's my sworn duty to like rag on the books that we've already read at least at some point. Like
I like the Red Feast. I thought it was better than Blacktown.
Red Feast is good. Yeah, no, it's better than Blacktown. Red Feast is good. It just goes off the rails after a point.
Yeah, I mean it goes to a full cocaine bender. I'll give you that one. So, yeah, no. So I like that about this book. And so, do you have any more like detailed thoughts? Now that I kind of rambled on for a while.
Personally, my vibe on it was like it was definitely a lot of it's a lot of action, a lot of cool combat scenes and everything like that. And I do think excuse me, it does show an interesting progression of the character. It just I think for me it's definitely a lot of like picking out the whole thing plays out kind of like a montage where you're seeing these important moments from his life all the way up until the end. And to me, it kind of glosses over, I think, a little too much, especially towards the end after he asserts that he's the guy in charge and everything. It's like we see one scene of him being in charge, and then he's dead. And of course, I think I blame that on the limit of the medium, which is fine, which is something that's going to come up in a short story format. And I think the reason why I don't really jive with the story too much is because it rubs up against my personal philosophies when it comes to writing and storytelling.
Which is what?
In that I prefer I typically write short stories as far as the length. And when I sit down to do something like that, I prefer to do like a snippet of something. Like here's like a day in the life of blank. Essentially, I don't really like to do a whole broad.
Like the time span.
Yeah, time span, because I feels like I'm not going to be able to get into as much detail as I would want to make that really narratively satisfying.
That's fair.
But for a character like an untamed beast, which is pretty inherently simple compared to I think nearly every single other warband in this book, that format is not bad. It definitely works for the character, for the warband that we saw through this. And I think the reason why you probably are a big fan of it is because of your preference for the Path to Glory whole thing within Slaves to Darkness,
where we get to see their progression.
Yeah. Like I do remember you stressing a lot in that Slaves to Darkness thing. Is like you framed it around the Path to Glory.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely this story shows that. And flavored with the warband. So yeah, I think it's valid. It's valid in that regard.
No, totally.
It's just personally not what I enjoy, but I'm not gonna go so far to say like it's bad.
For sure. Well, if we were Siskel and Ebert, you got one thumbs up and one, I don't know, sideways hand. I don't know. When it comes to criticism, I feel like I have to distinguish whether or not like it's if I think it's like legitimately bad or if it's just something I don't enjoy. I personally don't jive with, and I think this is one of the ones that I just personally don't jive with. That's fair. That's super fair. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, let me put my paintbrush down here. And we'll move on. Let's see. Next one up, we have. I don't know why I don't just bookmark this freaking page. Okay, here we go. We have The Proving Ground by Sarah Cockwell.
Yes, this one.
159. Again, I don't recognize the names. I only recognize when I see the stories.
I remember the Corvus Cabal one.
Yeah. So, story arc for this one.
I think, go ahead. To be honest, I think the both of us really expected a lot more out of this one because we're both. I think I would venture to say fans of the Corvus Cabal, and so we wanted a lot for this story.
Yeah, I had some great expectations, we'll say.
Yeah.
And it did okay. So basically, this is the story of, what's his name? It's like a one syllable thing here.
Caw.
Caw, yeah, they rapid fire through names here.
They did. That's the thing. That's the thing in these short stories. Is like, please, for any of you wanting to write out there and there, depending on the length of your story, don't have too many names. Don't do it. Proper noun. Don't do it. Warhammer fiction especially suffers from proper nounitis.
Locke. That's his name is Locke.
Locke. Okay. Yeah.
So it follows one Corvus Cabal member named Locke, and basically he has to assert himself if he wants to like gain, I don't know, level up, if you will, in the hierarchy. He needs to do what's called a great hunt. So basically, he needs to pick a target, hunt them, and assassinate them the Corvus Cabal way, and offer their remains up to the Great Gatherer, which is like their bird deity. They think Archeon's an avatar of it.
Yeah.
Super cool. I'm sold. Everything. I'm picking up what you're laying down. I like everything so far. The thing is, to do this, he can't just do it by himself. He's picking off pieces here and there, and he realizes like, okay, so I want to take out basically their leader of the Splintered Fang, I believe.
Yeah,
and
Splintered Fang gets passed on throughout the entire book.
They're good-looking bad guys, to be honest with you.
They're like the perfect bad guys for everything.
They dig it.
But everybody hates snakes. No.
So he's picking off a few of the random Splintered Fang here and there. He's a super good fighter. There's some really cool action scenes in this. And so he goes on this big hunt. Part of the process is he has to say, like, in front of the whole like cabal, "Hey everybody, I'm gonna kill this guy. Who's with me?" And like basically, I covered this in the Warcry lore video, but basically like everyone votes on you raising your rank by saying, "Yeah, I'll go fight with you," kind of thing. And so like
my axe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, whoever can garner the most support is someone that you trust and to lead hunts well and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, really cool. I mean, all of that I'm sold on. They go to do the hunt, and they actually get super wrecked by Furies.
Like Fury? Yeah, I remember it's like something goes wrong for all of them, and both of the warbands just get utterly messed. Oh wait. I okay. I'm sorry. We're not there yet.
No, you're fine. But so basically, they give false information to a bunch of beggars and that kind of thing, and lead the Splintered Fang out to like a forest kind of thing, and get out like. And so what it is the Splintered Fang are like, haha, they didn't know we had this information. We'll surprise them and attack them. Meanwhile, of course, the Corvus Cabal, who put the fake information out there, are like, these guys are idiots. We're just going to come up right behind them and kill them. No problem. Easy hunt. It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Great.
Exactly. So that's the plan. They leave the city and immediately get their faces kicked in by a bunch of Furies.
Right. Yeah, that, and I remember that fight scene. It's a very well developed fight scene. But when you consider the opponent, it's like, really?
That's kind of my thing. They make the Furies seem huge, but it's like they're just annoying. They have a 6-up save, bro.
I mean, it kind of makes sense whenever you're given that these are lightly armored, lightly armored warriors that are just like, they're just people. So for a while Furies are perhaps like not the strongest thing in the 8 points, like, yeah, if they get the drop on you, like I think they did in this one, I think they could be legitimately dangerous, but
it's true.
I think this story actually makes the wildlife of the 8 points actually seem legitimately dangerous. Like I think the designers like want them to be.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it absolutely does. The only thing I'm torn about is like I want them to show off the local wildlife to be dangerous, because you're absolutely right. That's super important, and I'm glad they did.
Yeah.
At the same time, I was reading this story and it kind of kept going, and I'm like, I didn't come for this. I came for them punching Splintered Fang in the face.
Yeah, no, that's the problem. Is like it's a very well developed fight scene.
Mm-hmm.
It does a good job of making the chaotic beast seem legitimately dangerous and a threat to possible schemes. Like they make it if we were to play this out on the table, the twist was Furies.
Yes, exactly.
And it makes that twist seem dangerous. Which is
good.
I think
that's a really good point.
But with the format and with the low word count that you have to work with, maybe not all that time needed to be dedicated to fighting Furies.
I absolutely. I think that's a great way to say it. So, so they fight the Furies. They make it through. Their numbers are drastically reduced, and they're like, okay, well, crap, because like now how are we gonna, like, even if we get there, do we have enough dudes to fight them? They go to I'm gonna put it in air quotes, forest. And the forest is a bunch of trees that, like, if you touch them, they start to like absorb you.
Yeah, they're like vampire trees.
Yeah,
there's
those spikes come out and they hook you, and you get stuck to it, and it drains you out and dries you like a husk. And
there's actually a Japanese monster out there that like does that. It's like legitimately a vampire tree. It's very interesting.
That is awesome.
Go look it up sometime. But yeah, I was reminded of those whenever they described it. So yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was really a cool setting. They do the ambush, and there's a lot of. What did you think of the fight scene, the main event?
The main event, it was good, but I think it also fell into that bit that happened at the end of the Harrower, where it kind of got away from itself to where it was like, okay, wait, what?
Yeah.
How? Because I think, and I don't think it was because of the like poor description of the setting, even though I think that was an element. It was mostly that there was swapping of perspective throughout the story between Locke and the leader of the Splintered Fang. So when they came together, it started to get fuzzy in that regard because
like who's the camera following?
Yeah. Or like who the camera should be following versus who it did follow, combined with muddy description of the setting. Because I think like some fog rolled in and it made it like hard to. And narratively it made it hard for the Splintered Fang to figure out what was going on, which is the point. Yeah. But when you're describing like this fight scene and everything, in a story about the Corvus Cabal, no less, it was like, this isn't. No, I want to be in Locke's mindset because he's the one that we care about. But instead, we're getting this perspective of the Splintered Fang. It was just a little bit of a disconnect.
Yeah, I could give you that one. Okay.
But it was still quality writing as far as like when they were locked in combat. That was excellent. But and it felt dangerous. It felt, you felt there in the moment. It's just that when it came to balancing, the focus was a little bit disjointed.
Fair enough. Yeah, I liked it. So it ends with Locke. Basically, he gets nicked by a Splintered Fang weapon, which is the worst thing that could ever happen because obviously everything's covered in poison. Yeah.
There's some actually excellent description of their poison doing their worst in the Harrower. So like if you're a fan of Splintered Fang and you want to see like what it's like to get nicked by their weapons, like these stories have a pretty dang good description, like rife with descriptions of that. It's like, wow, you really see how kind of deadly those are.
Yep, and some of them, like, they twist and warp your skin, and you start getting scales and stuff like that. It's weird.
It's really cool. It's really cool.
I think there was some cool stuff there. I mean, I don't think it was a bad story at all.
No, yeah.
I don't know, it didn't grip me. I think there was a lot of potential, and I think if they had... That's the problem, is I don't want them to, like, delete the Fury fight and then just have it focus on other stuff, because... nobody talks about the Furies, and I was like,
the Fury section was good. It's just that given I wouldn't delete it. I would have shortened it. And then I would have probably reworked the latter half whenever that whole ambush is going on, just to frame it more from the Corvus Cabal's perspective instead of instead of a warband that this story is not actually focused on.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was not my least favorite, but also not the favorite.
But it was the quality. At first, the quality of writing in it had me putting it second to Method of Madness. But upon reflection, it's kind of decreased in my opinion. But I'm still not sure exactly how I would rank all these, because I know that Method of Madness is my favorite, but when it comes to the other ones, I don't know. They all fell apart in different ways. So
see, I got a definitive rank. We're gonna go through this later.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, at the end.
Oh, and I totally forgot to pull up, of course, the Corvus Cabal picture.
No.
I know. Let's see. We'll skip ahead picture-wise to the next one here.
And speaking of the next one, wow, it's Splintered Fang.
Yes, 8-tailed Naga 203. Let me grab their picture. So,
this one was pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting to analyze, if I must say. Now, I think I mentioned earlier that there was another story in this book that did the thing where the climax just goes off the rails way too fast. 8-tailed Naga was that story for me.
Yeah.
It basically had the same narrative progression as Red Feast did, where it had really solid world building at the beginning, really solid descriptions of how this warband, operates off the battlefield. And then, once the thing that you came for happened, it just went way too fast. It's like, okay, what is happening? But I'll let you describe the plot.
Yeah, I'll be honest. The ending, it kind of got away from me. I have no idea. I mean, but basically, it starts off with a dude in a pit, and he's having a rough day because his clan, his little tribe that he was a part of, a few families, was attacked by the Splintered Fang, and he is stung by one of their snakes, got some poison in him, and basically what we learn kind of throughout the story is that when they invade an area, they'll just have snakes bite people or load them up with poison and then chuck them in a pit. And the idea is, hey, if you can survive the poison, you're obviously chosen to be one of us. That's just how we do. And so he has a bad day and basically loses his wife and all of his friends and family.
Oh, yeah, it is a really bad time.
Yeah, it is. What's that song? So you had a bad day. It is just that on steroids. And it ends up with basically him waking up, and we are learning about the clan as he is.
Yes.
Yeah, which is an interesting thing. And we're learning about it as he is, while he's being we'll say forcefully inducted. He doesn't really have a choice.
Yeah.
Made for a very interesting kind of setup. And a lot of it's just talking about the Splintered Fang we have a destination that we're going. Our god is leading us somewhere. We're waiting for the next clue, and these lands, so you must be a gift from the snake father to lead us.
The coiling ones.
Yes.
The
and
snaky
so yes. I'm sure Vince Ventrella will call him the Snake Daddy, but whatever.
You know what? That's valid.
So, we're listening to this conversation, and you're just
okay.
And he does, I will say, he leads them on a journey across his little slice of the 8 points. And it is interesting, for example, there's a whole section that's there's just a hill that's made of brass. And so they kind of allude to a general idea of Khorne, but not stating it, kind of thing. This is where the bloodletter wants, sacrifices, that kind of thing, where it's kind of implied. We as the readers are ha ha ha, but they don't understand what's going on. And then the story escalates to I don't really know. They kind of lost me after that because I couldn't. The thing
So
is,
when
here's
I
what I'm
was
gonna say because
yeah,
before I'll
yeah.
let you finish the story, I'm just gonna say this: they throw a metric ton of names and titles at you, and I had no idea what was going on.
Okay. So what happens, I think, is that so throughout throughout
Go on. I'm
okay,
sorry. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at basically our situation.
towards the middle of the story, they're like, ah, yes, you, sir, must must find the eight-tailed Naga, which is supposed to be this creature of untold power of the for the Calling Ones or whatever like that. And they're like, yeah, this is this super poisonous creature that's going to just take us to the next level. And so he's like, okay, I'll go find it or whatever. And so he goes and he finds it or whatever. And it turns out it's not a snake, it's a spider. It's an arachnarok. And the Gits are there. Like Gloomspike Gits just are there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the story ends with just everyone getting messed on, like super badly. Like they go, they find out it's a arachnarok, and they're like, ah, dang it, and they and then they just kind of at the end of the story just kind of ends.
I feel like a bit of a bumblebutt. You know?
We feel really dumb. Okay, guess I'll die.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the old man. I guess I'll die. Yeah, exactly
I'll
right.
die. And it's a huge disappointment if you ask me,
Yeah,
because
go for it.
because for as much as one can complain about a lot of there being a lot of dialogue, a lot of exposition and everything like that, I think it's done in a really clever and a strange, a bizarrely compelling way, right? As you see this guy get drawn further into this group and actually kind of like start to believe this this whole story that he's being told, and it's really interesting. But then like once you go and the motion of the story starts, and then there's that twist, that turn where it turns out to be you know not this big old snake but Ragnarok, and there these Gits just kind of wreaking havoc. It's just like, oh, that's not, it just all falls apart. It just the floor crumbles, everything goes away.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
What are we even doing here?
Yeah,
So
it's like, what even was the point? You had
yeah,
all this, and then you just blew it.
I it was the one I mentioned. It was the one like I really struggled to even.
I did too, and I'm glad I'm not the only one. It's
No,
like,
I've heard other people talk about it too. It just
yeah,
it doesn't. My biggest critique is like it showed like tribal life, which is something that I put in the positive category when it came to the Untamed Beasts. Which
exactly,
I was
yeah.
like, oh, we're waking up with him and we get to learn this at the same time. This is awesome. It's a
That's
perfect
the,
setup.
that's the clever setup, yeah, that I mentioned. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then but it just takes it in a direction where you're like, okay, but I feel like that setup is amazing, but we don't want every single character in the story to also be surprised and no one knows what's going on. Like
Yeah,
with the big
yeah,
spider popping out, because no one
yeah. No
knew.
one no one knew it, yeah, there wasn't even like a well, I guess there's kind of a reference to, maybe because it's an eight-tailed Naga, has eight legs. No,
For
no,
it's a reference to Corn and just the brass hills. I mean, they just talked about
it
yeah.
just seems yeah, it just doesn't seem like it, I can see where the guy behind this thought that might have been clever, but he did little to set it up or and make it satisfying.
Yeah, actually, I think that's probably the best way. I think it just wasn't a satisfying ending.
It's a bad M. Night Shyamalan twist.
Whoa, Savage dropping the M Night
That
insult.
that's kind of how the end of the story goes. It's
Lady in the
like,
Water was a good movie. Fight me.
well, I wouldn't know. I actually haven't really seen much of his catalog. But the thing is like it's what makes some of the twists in some of his later filmography bad is that like it's presented as a twist, but there's actually no. But what makes a twist good in actuality is that there's clues throughout the story to make you be able to kind of make it seem reasonable. But instead, it just kind of comes out of nowhere, and you shout, "What a twist!" And it's like, no, 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 no. How are we supposed to? Of course, yeah. That's how it goes.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say this is in my ranking. This was definitely my bottom one, and I loved the pitch, like the elevator pitch of someone waking up and we learn with them. Perfect. I think it's perfect for this format. It's just amazing.
It's perfect for the group. It's perfect. Yeah. Yes.
But it just didn't deliver on it. So, any other thoughts on this one before we move on?
I don't know if it's my bottom one. It definitely has the most egregious technical failing. But the thing about it is that former section, the the 3/4 of the story that is just really solid development of the Splintered Fang. It doesn't, like, the twist isn't enough to completely throw that baby out with the bathwater. It's
fair enough.
It's like I want to like it, except that there's just this one little thing at the end.
The little thing is the point of the entire quest.
It's much the same thing as Red Feast, where it's like I really want to like this whole first section, but then there's just this little thing at the end.
It's called the third act.
That's exactly it. It's called the third act.
Fair enough. Okay, so yeah, opinion is generally low. Kenzie seems to want to like it more than I want to like it, which is fair. I mean, that's totally fine.
And I think it's mostly because I'm somewhat partial to the idea of the Splintered Fang as like a faction in general, just because like they look cool, they got the only Chaos Elf, like they had really charismatic characters.
That's true. I don't remember seeing, is the actual elf in there? I don't remember seeing him in his story.
He's the guy who's talking to the main character whenever he first wakes up. He's like, "Hey, you're part of the Splintered Fang now. Hey, what's up?"
It was an elf. You are correct.
And that was cool. That was really cool.
Okay, so let's see. Clean my brush as always.
But I believe now is the time for the last of our stories.
Yes, the Iron Promise, and this is the one I'm going to need you to take the reins on, because it was the first one I read, and it was flippin' ever ago.
Yeah, well, I read them all in order. Yay!
Go for it. Give us a synopsis.
So, Iron Promise is about a guy. His name is Voss. He's the cousin, I want to say, to this overlord named Mithraxis, and he goes out to essentially reestablish this promise between his lord Mithraxis and this Dwarden guy named Korag, I think is his name. And they have this agreement to where Korag goes and he has this fortress and mines all the ore that the iron golems then use to make all their stuff. And Korag's required to give a tithe of his ore to the iron golems, or the iron golems are going to come and destroy him.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, the whole framing of the story is that Korag hasn't sent his tithe, so Voss is sent, and his warband are sent to go see what the heck is going on. So, yeah. So they meet up with Korag, and there's just this big kind of like exchange where it's like, "Oh, get out of my place." And Voss is like, "No, we came to come get the ore." He's like, "Well, okay, go do." And he says, "There's this thing in the mine that's been killing all my slaves and killing all the people I send to go hunt it. So if you can clear that out, then yeah, I'll give you your stuff." But of course, but Korag's being like super shifty about it. Like the one thing that is characteristic of this guy is that he is super shifty. It's something that's just stated throughout the story.
Yeah, that's how you know it's true. You gotta tell you,
Yeah.
don't show you.
So, well, no, I can have a whole discussion about that, but so Voss and his crew is like, okay, let's go figure it out. So they go down and they realize, yeah, that all the slaves were freed by some blade or whatever, instead of like this monster, and they all died trying to escape and everything. So they start working, and it came from beneath at the bottom of the mines. So they start making their way down there, and they find this one Stormcast Eternal ranger. Yeah, no, he's a Vanguard hunter. I'm sorry. This one beat up Vanguard hunter, and he's the one who caused all this trouble. So of course they're like, we have found the enemy, let's defeat him. So they beat up the Stormcast, and in a really good fight scene, if you ask me. And then they kill him. He zaps up, and the stipulation was that they're like, aha. Korak says, bring me the head of this monster, and I'll give you your tithe or whatever. But of course, being a Stormcast, it bolts up to his ear and everything. So they got played. So Korak comes down and he's like, haha, I got you, punks. And Voss essentially says, yeah, you knew about this. What a jerk move. And then Korak, continues to laugh about it. He's like, you'll never get your thing now, whatever. And then the story ends with Voss picking him up, picking the little stubby little Duarden up, and just throwing him in the little pile of lava. And he's like, yup. That's how the story, and that's how it ends. It's like,
okay. We pause right here. Vincey in the chat, I apologize. I accidentally hit a button that puts you in timeout for 300 seconds. So I am so sorry. I was just moving my mouse and I accidentally clicked something. So you are good. You're not in trouble. I love you.
Heart.
Yes, heart. So yes, please don't think I was yes. Yeah, I was not censoring you and your ideas. So okay. Yes, I do remember reading the part where the guy gets thrown into the lava, and I was just thinking of like Bowser when you beat him in the old Mario game where he just like
so real, where you just
just like, the bridge goes out and he just kind of goes bleh, and then just bounces away. That's pretty much how I was thinking about it.
Yeah. I remember in the I think it was it's either the DS or the Wii game where you drop him in the lava and he like flounders out of it, but then start turning into a skeleton and then sinks back down. Like really disturbing, frankly. I imagine. Or like the scene in Lord of the Rings where Gollum falls off the edge of Mount Doom and everything goes tumbling into the lava and all that.
Yeah. And then when I was a kid, I learned that when you hit lava, it's just like hitting concrete because it's just rock. It's just melted rock. And so there's no water splashing and that kind of thing. And I was like, I feel lied to.
Yeah, I think, that's true. That's true.
I mean, well, okay, when I say I was lied to, I mean, I'm thinking of like the scene from Terminator 2 where T-1000 is like thrashing around like it's liquid.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
that's a no-no.
I think if you heat it up hot enough to where it becomes more liquidy than solid, but it's still, to me it's like swimming through syrup, but this is besides the point.
Yeah, I know. You know who I'm going to ask? Doom and Darkness. I think he's a geologist or something like that.
Whoa. Okay.
Anyway, sorry. I'll ask that guy. No, yeah. What did you think of the story overall?
I thought it was. You told me, I was like, oh, it's written by Josh Reynolds.
It didn't seem like one of his. It seemed light.
Nope. It is not his best. Nope. Yeah, but it to me it's like not offensive, as it were. It's like it's not anything. It's just okay.
I could see that.
It's just it's some, it's got some twists.
I
It's
felt
got some
like some of
characters.
the other stories I liked because, you know, even within the context of like their own factions, they all felt very epic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the Untamed Beast guy was just like, you know, I have some great power. I'm going to lead the tribe to victory, or visions of grandeur. And this one just felt like, here's what happens sometimes. Sometimes people get screwed.
Yeah.
And if you get
Yeah.
screwed, you throw somebody in the lava. It's like, oh.
It's just when it seems it does I think fit the dispassion of the Iron Golems.
Fair
Like,
point.
they keep the promises, and they're just they're unrelenting and everything like that. But when in the context of the story, this is just an extremely banal kind of event for them. It's like, well, yeah, it has greater implications because this is a major supplier of ore for the faction, but it's nothing compared to like this big old rise to glory for the Untamed Beast, or
Yep.
this this coming of age of the Corvus Cabal guy, or the Thrallmaster, starting to gain control over the city and everything like that. No, it's just like this guy's being a jerk. Let's go
Yep.
kick his teeth.
100%. Yeah, and that's kind of the thing where it's like, you know, the story I had no problems with, but the scale of it, I was like, oh, I mean, I want them to at least like be super into it.
Yeah, and even the characters were pretty, for like as little time as they got on screen, were okay. There's an interesting dynamic between the Signifer and a female character. I think she was like the Taskmaster or something.
Yeah, I
One of
believe
the
that's the title.
other
I can't remember the name of the Untamed
one of
Beast
the
guy.
other kind of like character models in the kit, and they kind of had this like love hate thing going on. And then the Signifer just dies, and it's like that. And they have this one moment where they kind of get into a little spat, and Voss narrates something to the effect of, "Oh yeah, they do this all the time," and then it just kind of doesn't come up again.
Yeah, they do
Because
this all the time. This one time.
yeah, and then they well, yeah, because it's like this. I think the story doesn't. It's like it's focused on conveying its plot simply and cleanly, and then just kind of it's in, it's out. It's like doing its time. It's working its 9 to 5. It's whatever.
Yeah, maybe he needs like 400 pages minimum to like really spread his wings and fly.
Yeah, part of me's thinking that might be the case, is that like he just may have just not really been into this one and was like, I wanted, yeah, or maybe he does need more space to be able to tell these stories.
Yeah,
Maybe. I don't think I've read enough of his work to be able to come down either way.
for sure. Vincey in the chat, we already covered the Cypher Lords. We went in order. So once this video is done and it renders up on the YouTubes, you can go backwards in time and give it a gander. Okay, so I'm gonna actually pause my painting there and kind of give my full attention. So that is all 6 stories. I'm gonna go ahead and rank them for myself. You don't have to. I won't put the spotlight on you. But,
Oh yeah, I don't think I can even after.
for me, my absolute favorite is going to be Ben Counter Devourer's Demand. That's the Untamed Beast one. It had everything I wanted all these stories to have, where it's non-combat life, a path to glory, why they're there. He has visions. There's like a kind of play with like the demonic aspect of the head, and the kind of depressing, I'm going to say almost nihilist thing of like his story. Again, like I said before, it's just a circular story where he's just going to be the head that talks to somebody else kind of thing. Loved it. So that's my number 1. Number 2 is Method of Madness with the Cypher Lords, because it's amazing for all the reasons that you loved it.
Yeah.
And then
I'll go back over that whenever.
Yeah,
I get
and
to
I'm
talk
going to say the Harrower with the Unmade is my number 3, just because I didn't expect to like it, and I really walked away being like, this is legit. I liked it quite a bit. Then Iron Promise and Then The Eight-Tailed Naga by David Geimer was my least favorite.
Okay.
What I will say though is that
Oh, where did Proving Ground fit in there? There, the Chorus Cabal one and the Iron Promise.
I'm sorry, I totally missed that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna put Proving Ground just above the Harrower, so it goes Devourer's Demand, Method of Madness, Proving Ground, Harrower, Iron Promise, Eight-Tailed Naga.
Okay.
I don't know how I missed that one. Yeah. I mean, so what I will say is, kind of recapping all of them. None of them are like so bad that you're like, how does this guy have a job as a writer? You know what I mean?
None of them are like offensive, like angry, bad. Like
No. And if you want to know what I mean by that, go read some of the older, really older Black Library books. You're going to be like, my God, they killed a tree for this? You know what I mean? And
I remember. I think I've experienced that in Black Library space. The sisters novel Faith and Fury. When I finished it, I was so aggressively angry. I just wanted to throw the book across the room. I was just so like, I can't believe you've done this.
Just gripping the book in your hands, being like, infinite rage.
Just like throw it on the ground because I was just like, this is nonsense. Though I think one day I need to come back on here just so I can rant about that book. Oh my God!
I don't know anything about it, but yeah, go for it.
It's similar to it will be similar to my whole take on Black Talent, where like I found some stuff to just laugh about, but at the end of the day, it still like upsets me.
Yeah, that's fair. So
anyway.
Yeah, though, like there's nothing like that where I was actively like, I don't want to finish this story, you know, and. Beyond that, I'm trying to think of what else I have to say. Some of them were really good. Again, they all write in very different ways, so I'm sure different aspects of the story will appeal to. Like, I'm sure there's somebody who's like, the Eight-Tailed Naga was the greatest. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm still over here like Eight-Tailed Naga was pretty good up until that point.
So you know what I mean? Like, don't
yeah.
take my word for it. You do have to read them because. To form your own opinion, I mean, just because they are very different styles.
Definitely.
Let's see. Well, do you have any thoughts as far as like kind of banding them all together at the end?
I mean, something that I realized like after having gone back through all these, it's like there was only one story that I think like stuck the landing at the end, if that makes any sense. Oh, yeah. The reason why Method of Madness I think stands out to me as the best is one because of my predisposition to already enjoying the kind of story the Cypher Lords were going to bring, but two because it was consistent throughout and it had a very good beginning, a strong beginning, strong middle, strong end. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think the problem that we had across the Harrower, Eight-Tailed Naga, and Iron Promise was and Proving Ground is that they all just when it came like they had a good beginning, good middle, like decent beginning, decent middle, but they dropped the ball at the end.
That's fair.
And so. While there definitely is, something for everybody in this book, when it comes to I think overall technical execution, it's like we definitely can see what goes into making it's a cautionary tale for people who want to write a short story.
Yep. Yeah, it is absolutely. That's a great point.
A crucial lesson in pacing.
Well, that's the thing where. I to touch on that because that's a fantastic point there at the end is like, don't let your opinion of these authors be represented by these because you can tell that some of them are really good at short stories. Yes. And then Josh Reynolds, who is again, I said at the beginning, my boy. Like I love his books.
And I mentioned earlier is probably is certainly one of the best writers for Age of Sigmar.
Oh yeah. I rate his story was second to last for me in this format. So it's like, you gotta.
Yeah, you can't write them off completely.
Yep.
um, well, and I'll be honest, as somebody who's been writing on their own for a while, it's like short stories are hard
Yep.
because, well, especially, well, actually, you know what? No, here's a good recent example. So, the lore contest that you recently ran,
Hmm.
uh, we have a word limit. You know,
Yes.
15, convey your story in 1,500 words or less.
Yes.
Um, when you put that kind of limit on there, everything becomes it becomes difficult because you have to find that balance between a good strong middle or strong beginning, strong middle, strong ending. And I think that's kind of the struggle that was going on in this throughout this novels. You can see the novelist had, or the writers had to face that struggle of, okay, you got this amount of space to tell your story, and then some of them, yeah, and some of them just didn't stick the landing, like ran out of words. It almost seems like, and
That's
had
the
to
idea.
find a way to end it.
And then everyone was fine. And then everyone died. Yep.
Yeah,
That kind of stuff.
and yeah, and to me that's kind of how Red Feast was like, because I swear I can't stop talking about it. It's like there's you saw that section where it's like, the third act should be starting now, and then you had to rush everything to get it done.
For sure.
So
Um,
definitely.
answer a few questions in the chat. Yes, I did run a lore contest. It literally just ended. I'm actually still reading. I started hammering through some of the entries. 83 total.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm frankly gobsmacked by that number. I was like, oh, wow,
yeah.
wow, popular.
So that's really cool, and some of them are incredibly interesting, like legit concepts. So I'm reading through those. Anyway, Lore Master Sotik, you ask who am I chatting with? This is Kenzie, who is my friend and patron, and just an all around awesome person. She knows more about literature than me, and so I have her on because I'm just like, that's a cool story.
Well, I'm just very opinionated.
Well, that's the thing is I need someone with strong opinions. That's why I like to have Jack on as well because,
I
like,
know what I
I
like. I know what's good, or I know what I think is good.
um,
And yeah,
it's just one of those
yeah.
things that, like, even if someone disagrees with you, that's fine. My thing is, I was like, everyone tried their best. I'm like the mom who has like a preschooler in like soccer when it's just a bunch of dumb kids staring at each other doing nothing. Like, you all tried. um,
Well, I think that works especially for your channel because it's all about the channel's central crux is giving all these different factions that kind of attention
oh sure,
to, well, yeah, for the people that care about it. And I think that, yeah, a thing that you do really well is always finding something cool about every single faction. Like it's the catchphrase now, but like, why
mm-hmm.
is this cool? And then your answer to that is what makes this channel, like, exceptional in that
Totally,
in that regard.
totally, yeah. That's the drive.
Yeah, whereas I don't
I
think I'd be able to do that because when it comes to certain factions, I'm kind of like, I mean, this isn't
nothing
really
makes them cool. They're the worst.
like, I just don't really enjoy this faction that much, so I can't really.
Oh man,
Yeah,
there's a reason I passed the buck on Beast Claw Raiders for about 3 years.
well, sometimes, yeah, I mean, sometimes well, it's because they didn't really have the
Mm-hmm.
well developed
Yep.
battle tome at the time. I think the wealth of information is different from quality of the information.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, it's like,
So
yeah, there just wasn't enough. Even if the lore was quality in some regard, it just didn't. It didn't. There wasn't enough of it to really cover that. I think that's what it seemed like to me.
um, do you have any last thoughts here on the Warcry anthology? Who would you recommend it to?
Anyone who plays the the 4/6 war bands,
Mm-hmm.
or and I think if you're generally interested in the 8 points, I think that there are definitely some some interesting glimpses into it. Like something I neglected to mention in the Iron Promise is that they're traveling through this mountain pass, and then there's these like crystals with faces in them, right? Uh, and Voss is like, don't look at them, don't engage, don't talk to them, don't do anything with them, because like if you look at them or if you talk with them and everything like that, they'll draw you into them and you won't be able to get out or whatever. It's a bizarre kind of chaosy thing that that's just kind of interesting. It's like, oh, this is just a thing in this realm. And of course, I think Proving Ground and Method of Madness do a great job of characterizing Karngard as Karngrad
Yep.
As kind of like chaos city, and even though we only get to see like a little glimpse of it, there's so much kind of like packed into that. That's like, oh, I want to see a whole book of this.
Exactly.
I want to see like, yeah, give me more of that.
Yeah, give me Battle Tome Karngrad.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're interested in the 8 points as a setting or in any of the core 6 warbands, and I think that there you can find something in it. You can gain a lot of useful information, even if the writing isn't always good, isn't always consistent.
Totally. And one thing I'll tack on there is if you read this or have read it and you do think it's very interesting, I've only just started cracking into it because I got my copy late, but my advanced copy late. Figure that out. For Wrath the Everchosen, there is quite a large spread on the 8 points. So if it's something, I'm going to do a video like dedicated to that setting. But if that is something that interests you, there's more information there. So there is more coming. That's why we were talking in the beginning about like I'm not sure where this kind of was in the development cycle, but it seems very interesting.
Yeah, from what it seems, Wrath of the Everchosen does, it gives it full-on Realm of Battle rules. So to me, it seems like it's going to have a really good sweeping description of it.
Yep.
Whereas Warcry definitely exceeds on making it intimate,
yes.
Like how this is how these people engage with this setting.
Exactly.
In that regard.
Absolutely agree with that. One thing that I wanted to add here at the end is that I have some links down below that I think many people would find very, very interesting. So let me pull them up, just look at them so I can get some reference. Make sure I'm not losing my mind. Yes, they are there. Okay. Making sure the computer saved them. So, Kenzie, tell me about Madrigal.
Okay, so Madrigal is a fan-made audio drama that is being produced by a handful of us in this community. I think some people from the server Digital and Dice and Learn Train Play, who are both occasionally in this chat, in addition to a bunch of other people that we brought on to do voices and everything like that. We've made this this audio drama that centers around a free city in the realm of shadows that is being besieged by, literally everything. So, death is approaching on the hordes of death armies are approaching on one end, whereas chaos is starting to take root within the city. So, and all the while the Stormcaster in their midst trying to figure everything out. In addition to some free guilds and some witch hunters, it is a very ambitious, but it's kind of it's still in its early stages. The second episode only released like last week because the person who was originally editing it had to step down, and I stepped in to take over that position because I had the time. But I think now that I've settled into the position, we can definitely start producing episodes on a more regular basis. But it's linked down in the description, and it'll take you to the first episode where you can listen to the first 2 episodes and hopefully subscribe so you can be notified when more episodes come out. Yay!
Yay! Okay. And so that's awesome. I like fan-made content. Go support them. Go hang out and tell everyone how great they are at voice acting, because it's not easy, friends.
I, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not super proud. We have some great actors in there. I am not one of them. I'm in the second episode, playing a character named Lady Ciara, who is one of the nobles of Madrigal, of course. But I don't know.
You
Don't
know
know how
what?
I feel.
My acting debut was a man only named Sergeant in a play in high school, so don't worry about it. We're all awkward. You did great.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was fine, but still, uh, it's just fun. It's fun.
And below that is a short story that you wrote. Well, not short. Well,
No, it's a short story.
okay.
I'd classify it as such.
It is a story
Uh,
that is not long in length. I was just thinking about how we were defining short stories and that kind of stuff earlier on this.
uh,
Do you want to talk about that a little
I
bit? I mean, it's your baby.
It's my baby. I'm gonna be honest. It is. I wrote it about this time last year, so it's definitely you. If you've seen any of these streams before, you've probably seen this in the description, and possibly read it if you are so inclined. It's a 40K short story centering on a sister battle on her first day in the job. From my personal army lore, but basically she just has one heck of a first day. I've been working on a follow up for like a year now, but I've been paused on it because I haven't really figured out how I want the climax to go down. However, I have been in talks with somebody else on the server that I've been writing with for a little bit, and it's like, what? I think I'll finally, next time I'm on one of these streams, I'll probably have something different to put down there.
Okay, no, you know what you got to do? You got to sell it. You got to like promote yourself with some confidence. Be like, guys, this is like Training Day meets Titanic meets Godfather. It's gonna be great. You're gonna love it.
No, it's not. I think I mentioned earlier in the stream that I think short stories should take place over a short span of time in order to really flesh that out, and that's what this short story definitely does. It's all takes place within the span of like a few hours at most, except for a section at the end. But what it does in that span of time is takes this sister on a whale of a ride that does indeed kind of shape her outlook for going forward in the future, which, trust me, she's got a destiny in front of her. She's got a good life ahead of her. Good life of murdering heretics. It's simple, but it's effective. I'm still proud of it. How's that? Even though it's been a while since I've written it. I'm still proud of it.
No, I think you should have to be proud of it. Honestly, this is just goes for everybody. If you put yourself out there, you should be proud of it, straight up. Because I get messages probably about 3 times a month from people who like they want to know how to do YouTube stuff, but you can't tell somebody how to be vulnerable. You know what I mean? Like, how do I do this? How do this? Because I don't want to look stupid. No, you're gonna look stupid. Straight up. I mean, your first videos are gonna be dog crap, and then you're gonna improve and get better because that's what life is. So it's like the fact that you just you wrote something, put it out there for the world. Awesome. Good on you.
Yeah. No, I'm proud of it. I'm still proud of it. But we can always. I'm still interested in working on my craft. My craft.
Yeah, you gotta say it like all hipstery.
Yeah, I'm dedicated to my craft.
I want to do that. Kenzie, have any more things you want to plug or mention or anything like that?
I have been working with somebody else on the 2+Tough rerolling one server, which everyone here should join. And because I'm on there all the time. I have been working on writing something with them. So it combines our 2 army lore entries, I guess, like the two armies from that lore entry, in order to, try and make something that's really interesting as far as the combining those two and how they conflict with each other. So I guess expect that to be posted somewhere in the future. I might put it on the next of these streams or something like that.
Okay.
With their permission, of course. But yeah, also Armor Man from the new High Elf range. Give it now.
Right on.
But yeah. Oh, hey, what are we reading next?
Well, I don't. Well, I'll tell you what I'm reading next. I'm reading 83 more short stories. Is what I'm reading next. That's what I have going on. I haven't settled on a book. I might actually. I need to put a poll up for the patrons. To be perfectly honest with you. So let me get a collection of books. I'll let you guys vote, and we'll go from there. Does that sound like a plan?
Talking about a poll on the Patreon?
Yes. Yeah, sorry. It went really super quiet, so I didn't know if I lost you.
Sorry. No, I'm sorry. I was distracted. Yeah, sounds good. Sounds
okay.
Good.
And so, friends, if you want to follow along, I'll make all kinds of stuff. I'll make a video that says, this is what we're reading next, and I'll make a post on the community tab so you guys can follow along there. So, anyway, Kenzie, thank you so much for joining me. This is a lot of fun. It was a good book. Go out and get it. It is the Warcry Anthology, which I think they have a soft version now. Maybe not.
They do. It's way cheaper. I think, you know what, Doug, something you should consider is if the books have a softback and an audio version, because I paid like $27 to get the Warcry Anthology, and plus shipping. Oh god.
Well, it was... So real talk. Here's the problem with that is that the softback, absolutely, you're totally right. The thing is that they have so few books in audio format for Age of Sigmar and so many for 40K that the pool is very small. And so
but at least I'd like to consider the softback version, because
that's fair. It's totally fair.
I don't be paying like upwards of $40 for to get a book in.
I think that is totally fair and legit. So let's do that. I'll throw a poll up for the patrons here once I get some of these short stories out of my way, and we'll go from there.
Yes. All right. Cool. Thanks.
Right. Thank you, friends, for joining us. You all have a wonderful night, and I will see you. Oh, actually, Josh Seitz, thank you for the donation. He just says give. That does that. So anyway, thank you all so much for joining me, and we'll catch you in my next video, probably tomorrow around 11, to hang out with folks in Europe. See you all.